picture this, right? You log into your analytics dashboard.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you've got your coffee in hand. You are ready to check on that flagship piece of content you and your team just poured your absolute hearts into.
Right, the big one.
Exactly. And yesterday, it was ranking #1. It was an absolute goldmine, pulling in thousands of high-intent visitors.
But then today comes.
Today comes, you refresh the numbers, and you are staring at a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, your traffic hasn't just dipped. It has fallen off an absolute sheer cliff.
The total flat line.
Right. And you frantically check your rank tracker, but you're still sitting at position #1. So you're thinking, where did everyone go?
They vanished.
Exactly. And here is the jaw-dropping statistic from our research for today's deep dive. In this year, 2026, when an AI overview appears in the search results, the #1 ranking organic page loses a staggering 58% of its clicks.
Wow.
I mean, just 12 months ago, that number was 35%.
The acceleration is, frankly, it's breathtaking. We are witnessing the total rapid evaporation of traditional search behavior.
Yeah.
Like as we've known it for the last 2 decades. The paradigm has completely shifted.
It really has.
Right now, 37% of consumers do not even open a traditional search engine like Google to start their query.
Not even opening it.
Nope, they go directly to an AI assistant. And if we look at the broader macro trends year over year, AI-driven search traffic has exploded by 527%.
That is insane. 527%.
Yeah, the fundamental architecture of how human beings seek out and, retrieve information on the internet have been rebuilt from the ground up.
From scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is leaving legacy marketing strategies completely in the dust.
I really want to make sure the gravity of that hits home for everyone listening today. Because, for years, the entire digital marketing playbook.
A multi-billion-dollar SEO industry.
Right. It was all built around one singular obsessive goal: get on page 1 of Google, ideally in those top 3 blue links.
Build the links, write the content, win the click.
Yeah, you optimize the tags and you win. But what the data is screaming at us right now is that the era of optimizing for 10 blue links is functionally dead.
Completely dead.
We are officially operating in the era of Generative Engine Optimisation, or GEO. You are no longer trying to rank on a page.
Right.
You are trying to be cited by the machine as the definitive, indisputable answer.
And that distinction, the distinction between ranking in a list and being cited by a neural network,
Yeah.
that is the crux of this entire transition. When a user asks an AI a question today, they're basically implicitly stating that they do not want to do the work.
They want to hand it to them.
Exactly. They don't want to read through 5 different resources or compare varying opinions and extract the truth themselves.
Right, they want the AI to do the heavy lifting.
They want the AI to synthesize the entirety of the internet's knowledge and just hand them the final verdict.
And if you aren't part of that verdict,
If the AI's underlying model does not select you to be part of that final verdict, you literally do not exist to that consumer.
yeah.
There's no page 2. There is no below the fold. You are completely, seamlessly replaced by whoever the AI decided to cite.
So if you're listening to this right now, whether you're an in-house SEO director at a Fortune 500 company, or maybe you're running a boutique local agency,
Yep.
consider this deep dive your custom-tailored survival guide. Because we aren't just going to sit here and read scary statistics about traffic drops.
Nobody needs more of that.
Right. We are going to unpack the exact atomic level mechanics of how to structure your content for the machine.
We have to.
We're going to explore how to build unshakable authority that an AI actually trusts. How to track your success when traditional traffic vanishes.
Which is huge.
And most importantly, we are going to focus heavily on strategies that level the playing field so even small businesses with limited resources can leverage this shift.
To build that survival guide, we first have to, map the new terrain.
Okay, let's map it.
We have to thoroughly understand the environment we're operating in, which is defined by the absolute dominance of the walled garden.
The walled garden.
Yeah, if you look at the architecture of platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's integrated AI overviews,
Right.
their core user experience design is explicitly intended to keep the user inside their proprietary ecosystem.
Like forever.
Basically, from the very top of the funnel, the initial awareness query, all the way down to the bottom of funnel transaction.
So they never leave.
The platform's goal is to prevent the user from ever needing to click a link that takes them to your actual website.
My brain immediately goes to how this functions in the real world. A walled garden is like It's like an all-inclusive mega resort.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. They've got the restaurants, the pools, the entertainment. They have engineered it so beautifully that you never actually walk out the front gates to spend money in the local town.
Exactly. You stay on the property.
So if I open an AI assistant right now and ask about buying a new pair of, say, noise-canceling headphones for a flight,
It doesn't give you a list of tech blogs anymore.
no. It tells me the 3 best models based on recent consensus. It pulls in the exact frequency response specs.
It'll aggregate common complaints from Reddit.
Right. It gives me the current retail price, and then it provides a direct, localized checkout link.
Yep.
I just got a complete buyer's journey without ever visiting a single review site or a manufacturer's domain.
You never left the resort.
But here is the multi-million-dollar question for our listeners. How does the AI decide who gets to be the trusted answer inside that walled garden?
The mechanism at play here is what engineers refer to as an invisible decision layer.
An invisible decision layer.
Yeah. When a user types in that headphone query and hits enter, the AI does not just do a simple keyword lookup.
Like the old days?
Right. It runs the query through a highly complex, completely silent computational pipeline.
What's happening in that pipeline?
It evaluates the semantic context of the user's prompt. It cross-references its own training weights.
Yeah.
It pulls real-time data from search APIs. It gauges the authority signals of the sources it finds. And it calculates a confidence threshold before it generates a single token of text.
And this is all happening instantly.
Millions of times a day in fractions of a second. And if your brand or your product or your content fails to meet the threshold of that silent evaluation,
What happens?
you enter a condition known as the NL state.
The NLL state. Man, even the name sounds dystopian.
It really does.
Let's stress test what that actually means for a brand's bottom line.
Well, the NL state is the absolute mathematical absence of your brand from the generative output.
You just don't exist.
Right. In traditional search, if you fell from position 1 to position 6, you still got some residual traffic. You were still visible on the page.
Right, you could still get a pity click.
Exactly. In the generative environment, there is no residual visibility. The AI does not append a little footnote saying, I couldn't verify this other brand, but here's a link to their homepage just in case.
It's just a void.
You are simply omitted from reality as far as that user is concerned. And this introduces a massive existential crisis for marketing departments regarding how we actually measure success and ROI.
Because the old metrics don't work.
Exactly. If the walled garden is successfully keeping users inside and traditional organic traffic is dropping globally, Google search traffic is down 33% across the board.
33%? That's massive.
So continuing to use website traffic as your primary key performance indicator is a fatal error. You are staring at the wrong dashboard.
I really want to pause on that because this requires a fundamental rewiring of how we report to leadership.
Oh, absolutely.
Tracking traditional traffic right now in 2026, it's like furiously counting how many cars drive past your billboard on the highway.
Right.
You're obsessing over the impression volume when what you actually care about, what keeps the lights on, is how many people walk into your store, pull out their wallet, and buy something.
Spot on.
We have been addicted to the vanity metric of the click. But if the walled garden restricts the clicks, how do we prove to the C-suite that our SEO and content efforts are actually driving revenue?
Well, the data tells a completely different story when you look past the sheer volume of traffic and start analyzing the quality of the interactions.
Okay, so quality over quantity.
The new KPI model must be centered entirely on conversion rates and specific verifiable AI citations.
So even if traffic is down?
Yes, your overall top-of-funnel traffic might be down 30% or 40%.
Yeah.
However, the internal conversion data from our sources reveals that traffic originating from an AI search recommendation converts at an astonishing 14.2%.
Wait, hold on. Let me just run the numbers on that. 14.2%.
Yep.
Now compare that to the historical average conversion rate of traditional Google search, which hovered around, 2.8%?
Roughly 2.8%, yeah.
14.2% versus 2.8%. That means a single visitor who lands on your site because an AI explicitly recommended them is roughly 4.4 times more valuable than a visitor who clicked a traditional blue link.
It's a staggering multiplier.
That is insane. 4.4 times.
It forces a complete reallocation of value. You are receiving significantly fewer clicks, but the clicks you do receive are hyper-qualified.
They're ready to buy.
We refer to this as the perfect click. And the perfect click is generated at a specific juncture in the user journey called the zero-sum moment in AI.
The zero-sum moment. Explain that.
Think about the user experience. The consumer has been guided down the funnel entirely within the ChatGPT or Perplexity interface.
Right.
The AI has educated them on the problem, it compared the features of different solutions, and then at the very end of the interaction, the user asks the AI the ultimate transactional question.
Who do I buy from?
Exactly. Okay, based on everything you just told me, who should I pick? Which vendor do I go with?
Yeah.
You want the generative engine to explicitly output. Pick your brand. That is the zero-sum moment.
Because if they pick you, everyone else loses.
The AI crowns a single winner, and every other competitor loses. The user clicks through with their credit card already in hand. That is why the conversion rate is 14.2%.
They've been pre-sold.
They have been pre-sold by an entity they implicitly trust.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, the AI is essentially acting as an ultra-trusted, hyper-intelligent concierge. But practically speaking, if this pre-selling is happening entirely inside the walled garden of, ChatGPT or Gemini, we can't put a tracking pixel on it. We can't see the user's chat history. So how do we actually track our visibility leading up to that zero-sum moment?
You have to shift your auditing methodology. You move away from analyzing your own website and you start auditing the AI models themselves.
Oh, interesting.
You track success by establishing a rigorous protocol of testing your brand queries and your competitors' brand queries directly inside these AI platforms on a regular schedule.
So you're basically interrogating the AI.
Exactly. You use fresh accounts or automated API monitoring tools to prompt the AI. You ask it, summarize the reputation of my brand, or what are the drawbacks of using my brand versus my competitor?
And what are you looking for in the answer?
You are not looking for traffic numbers. You are conducting a qualitative and quantitative analysis of the output. You're looking for 3 specific indicators.
Okay, what are they?
First is the sentiment overwhelmingly positive. Second is the technical information about your product strictly accurate.
Right.
And crucially, third, does the AI include your specific success metrics?
Give me an example of that.
If the AI responds by saying, this brand is recognized as a leading enterprise provider that has successfully increased client retention by 40% across 5,000 deployments.
Oh, wow.
If it says that, you are definitively winning the citation game. You have successfully embedded your marketing narrative into the machine's weights.
Okay, so we've established the stakes. We know we want that 14.2% conversion rate, and we know exactly what we want the AI to say about us when it's tested.
Yep.
But how do we actually force the machine to say it? How do we embed our narrative?
That's the hard part.
To do that, we have to pop the hood and understand how these models actually process information. And our sources outline this incredibly vital foundational concept called the Algorithmic Trinity.
Trinity, yes.
Yeah. Because whether you were looking at ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Google's Gemini, they are not just massive autocomplete engines. They are all powered by the exact same 3-legged architectural stool.
And understanding this trinity is the absolute prerequisite for any successful GEO strategy. Let's break down the 3 distinct technologies that are working in tandem to generate a single answer.
Okay, leg number 1.
Leg number 1 is the LLM, the large language model chatbot itself. This is the neural network responsible for natural language understanding and generation.
This is the part we actually talk to.
Exactly. It handles the conversational interface, parses the intent of your prompt, and predicts the next most likely token to make the response sound human and coherent.
Right.
However, an LLM's training data has a cutoff date. It is static.
So it's outdated the second it's trained.
Exactly. Therefore, it requires leg number 2, the search engine component.
Okay, leg 2.
The system uses a search API to retrieve fresh, up-to-the-minute, and highly niche information from the live web to inject into the LLM's prompt window.
So it can actually know what happened yesterday.
Right. And finally, we have leg number 3, the knowledge graph.
I think the knowledge graph is the piece that the vast majority of marketers fundamentally misunderstand.
Oh, absolutely. They overlook it entirely.
Yeah.
The knowledge graph is not just a database. It acts as the ultimate authoritative fact checker.
The fact checker.
It is a massive, structured web of entities, people, places, brands, concepts, and the mathematical relationships between them.
So before it answers?
Before the LLM finalizes its output, the system cross-references the claims against the knowledge graph to prevent the AI from hallucinating or presenting falsehoods. It acts as the anchor to reality.
Let me jump in here with the hypothesis, because I see this mistake happening constantly.
Let's hear it.
A lot of brilliant marketers, people who used to dominate traditional SEO, look at ChatGPT and think, okay, this is just a text generator.
Right.
I'll just reverse engineer the LLM. I'll figure out what semantic phrasing it prefers. I'll prompt engineer my own content to sound like it's training data, and I'll win the citation.
It's a very common thought process.
Based on this algorithmic trinity, why is optimizing exclusively for the LLM a complete trap?
It is a trap because you are only satisfying 1/3 of the verification process.
Just one leg of the stool.
Exactly. If you hyper-optimize your syntax to please the LLM, but you ignore the search engine leg, the system will not retrieve your content because it doesn't view you as fresh or relevant to the live query.
Makes sense.
Worse, if you make a bold claim in your perfectly written content, but the knowledge graph does not have an established entity relationship verifying that claim.
Fact checker blocks it.
The fact checker blocks it cold. If the knowledge graph doesn't verify you or the search engine doesn't surface you, the LLM physically cannot cite you.
Doesn't matter how pretty the writing is.
It doesn't matter how well written your text is. You have to optimize for all three pillars simultaneously. If you neglect one, you are dropped from the generative answer tomorrow.
And just to add another layer of complexity to this, you can't just pick one platform, master its specific trinity, and call it a day.
No, you can't.
The user behavior data from our sources indicates that 47% of AI search users are regularly utilizing 2 or more platforms.
They're bouncing around.
Right. They might use ChatGPT for brainstorming, but Perplexity for research. So we have to understand the specific idiosyncratic rules of engagement for the big 3.
Let's really dissect the differences between ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini.
Okay, let's do it.
The behavioral differences between the platforms dictate exactly how you must layer your content. Let's start with ChatGPT.
The big one.
The behemoth. It is currently processing a staggering 2.5 billion queries daily.
2.5 billion. Every day.
Every single day. And because of its core design as a conversational agent, ChatGPT heavily prefers conversational, narrative-driven content.
It wants a story.
It does. When it generates an answer, it usually only cites a tight cluster of 3 to 5 sources. It values extreme depth and comprehensive context. If you want ChatGPT to cite you, your content cannot just be a sterile list of facts. It needs to thoroughly explore the topic with natural flowing prose that the LLM can easily summarize into a conversational response.
Okay, but then you look at Perplexity, which handles over 100 million queries a month and is growing rapidly among power users.
Perplexity is a totally different beast.
Perplexity is the rigorous academic of the group. It is incredibly data-driven. It does not care about your flowing narrative prose.
Not at all.
It relies heavily on dense, numerous citations. If you ask Perplexity a question, it might pull from 15 different sources for a single paragraph.
Yes.
If you are making a claim, Perplexity wants to see the raw data, the statistics, and the primary sources to back it up.
And finally, we have Gemini, which reaches over 1 billion users precisely because it is so deeply integrated into the overarching Google ecosystem.
Android, Workspace, Chrome, it's everywhere.
Gemini's architecture is uniquely hyper-focused on entities. Because Google possesses the largest knowledge graph on the planet, Gemini relies incredibly heavily on schema markup.
Schema.
It wants the information explicitly categorized. It doesn't want to guess what your page is about. It wants the code to definitively state the relationships between the concepts, the products, and your brand entity.
So this presents a massive structural paradox for content creators.
Oh, this is a massive.
We have the algorithmic trinity demanding we satisfy the LLM, the search, and the knowledge graph. And we have ChatGPT demanding conversational flow, Perplexity demanding dense data tables, and Gemini demanding rigid schema code.
It sounds impossible.
Right. How on earth do we actually write and structure a single piece of content that satisfies all of these confining requirements? Do we have to write 3 different articles?
You don't write 3 different articles. You architect a single piece of content with distinct, purposeful layers.
Okay, lay it out for me.
This brings us directly to the tactical blueprint for generative engine optimization. The overarching philosophy of GEO is friction removal.
Friction removal.
You must ruthlessly eliminate any friction for the autonomous agent attempting to parse your page. AI engines do not consume a page from top to bottom like a human reading a novel.
Right, they're not sitting down with a cup of tea.
No, they crawl, they extract, and they synthesize. Therefore, your structural hierarchy must be rigid and universally predictable.
I want to get really granular here. Walk me through the exact architecture of a GEO-optimized page.
It begins with the concept of the inverted pyramid of GEO.
The inverted pyramid.
The most critical element is placing direct, factual, heavily cited answers immediately at the top of your content. ideally within the first 40 to 60 words under a highly specific heading.
Right at the top.
Right at the top. This satisfies Perplexity's need for immediate data density.
Okay, so you get the data out of the way first.
Exactly. Then, below that direct answer, you expand into the conversational narrative depth that ChatGPT requires, utilizing short paragraphs and clear bullet points.
So you start with Perplexity, move into ChatGPT.
And governing all of this, you must use strict hierarchical headings, H2s and H3s, that act as literal signposts for the crawler.
This is a seismic shift from how we were trained.
It flips everything upside down.
Traditional SEO in the 2010s was all about the slow, dramatic build-up. You'd target a keyword like best CRM, and you'd light a 3,000-word magnum opus.
Oh, the recipe blogs are the worst at this.
Yes. The first 500 words would be a philosophical musing on the history of customer relations or a story about your grandmother's kitchen.
Just to keep the user scrolling.
Right, to increase time on page, because dwell time was a ranking factor. The actual answer was buried in paragraph 12.
Not anymore.
But an AI agent parsing your site at light speed doesn't care about your witty introduction or your dwell time. It wants the exact answer formatted perfectly right now.
Exactly. And this structural rigidity ties directly into a vital technical mechanism called HTML5 chunking.
Chunking?
This is perhaps the most important technical concept in GEO. When a crawler hits your page, it doesn't evaluate the entire text as a single blob. It parses the document object model, the DOM, and breaks the content down into discrete passages or chunks.
Right.
If your HTML is perfectly aligned, meaning your H2 asks a clear question and the very next P tag provides the direct answer, the bot can seamlessly extract that specific chunk of text and isolate it for analysis.
Okay, let's put this under the microscope. The bot grabs this isolated chunk of text. What is it actually doing with it in that fraction of a second?
It runs that chunk through a natural language processing model and annotates it. The bot can attach up to 24 distinct pieces of metadata to that single extracted paragraph.
24 pieces of metadata on one paragraph.
Yes. It runs entity extraction to label the people or brands mentioned. It analyzes semantic sentiment. It calculates the recency of the data.
Wow.
It maps the contextual relevance to the broader topic, and this is the critical mechanism. Based on all those annotations, it calculates and assigns a mathematical confidence score to that specific chunk.
So the confidence score is basically the bot stamping the text and saying, based on my semantic analysis and entity resolution, I am 99.7% confident that this specific paragraph is a highly accurate, safe answer to this user's prompt.
Precisely. And when the generative engine is assembling its final output for the user, it queries its index, retrieves the chunks with the highest confidence scores across the entire web, and uses those as the foundation for its citation.
So if your page is a mess,
If your page is a rambling, unstructured wall of text with clever but ambiguous subheadings, the parser cannot accurately chunk the text.
it gets confused.
If it can't isolate the chunk, it can't annotate it properly. The confidence score plummets, the chunk is discarded, and you lose the citation to a competitor whose page was structured more logically, even if your actual information was technically better.
I love analogies, so let me try to visualize this HTML chunking process.
Go for it.
Traditional SEO is like throwing an entire unindexed encyclopedia into a giant filing cabinet drawer and hoping the search engine would eventually find the right page. GEO chunking is like tearing out individual pages, highlighting the exact answer in neon yellow, and placing them in perfectly labeled, color-coded folders so the AI agent can reach in and grab exactly what it needs blindfolded.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
And speaking of perfectly labeled folders, we have to talk about how we explicitly categorize this data for engines like Gemini. How does schema markup fit into this?
Schema markup is the literal machine-readable label on that folder. It is a standardized vocabulary of microdata that you inject directly into your HTML.
So the user never sees it.
No, it doesn't change how the page looks to a human, but it radically changes how the search engine processes the page. You're explicitly spoon-feeding the knowledge graph.
It's not feeding it.
For generative optimization, you cannot rely on the AI to infer what your content is. You must actively utilize targeted schema types.
Give me some examples.
FAQ schema is absolutely mandatory. You're explicitly telling the bot, here is a frequently asked question, and here's the definitive answer. You must use how-to schema for processes, product schema for e-commerce, and article schema for thought leadership. You are removing the computational burden from Gemini.
So it doesn't have to think.
Exactly. Instead of making it guess the relationship, you're providing the exact entity mapping in its native language.
So we have our strict HTML chunking, we have our schema mapping our entities, we've built this flawless technical container.
The perfect vessel.
But there is another critical variable in the GEO blueprint, and it comes back to the AI's fear of the knowledge graph fact checker.
Yes, the hallucination fear.
AI models are absolutely terrified of hallucinating, serving the user a dangerously wrong or outdated answer. So they drastically, aggressively prefer fresh content.
Freshness is everything.
Our sources provided a highly specific refresh checklist for maintaining visibility. If you are listening to this, pause and write this down because this is how you prevent your traffic from decaying. To remain indexed in AI summaries, you must implement a continuous cycle where you regularly review your high-performing legacy content, explicitly update the statistics and data points to the current year.
Very important.
Refresh the real-world examples to reflect recent events, and expand sections with new information that addresses shifting industry trends.
That refresh cycle is not a recommendation. In 2026, it is a non-negotiable operational requirement.
Non-negotiable.
Think about the risk mitigation from the AI's perspective. If the engine has to choose between citing a highly authoritative article written in 2023 and a slightly less authoritative article updated last Tuesday that contains the exact same core information but uses 2026 data points,
It's taken the new one.
it will cite the recent one almost every single time. It optimizes for freshness to mitigate the risk of serving stale, potentially harmful facts.
That makes total sense.
And I must add one foundational, almost tragically common technical point.
What is it?
Check your robots.txt file. We see enterprise companies spending millions on AI strategy, only to realize their technical SEO team inadvertently blocked the primary AI crawlers like GPTbot or Google Extended from accessing their directory.
Oh my God. Millions of dollars wasted because of a text file.
If the crawler is blocked, you cannot be chunked. Frictionless technical access is your only entry point into the web index, and the live web index is the foundational data source for all generative answers.
All right, let's synthesize where we are. We have chopped the HTML into digestible chunks.
Yep.
We've categorized the data with schema. We've instituted a ruthless freshness protocol. We have built the perfect frictionless vessel for our information.
Got it.
But the AI still has a massive problem. Why should it trust us?
Exactly.
It has the information, but it needs to verify the source. It needs to know we are the absolute undeniable authority in our specific niche.
And this brings us to a conceptual evolution that takes the old SEO standard and completely supercharges it for the AI era.
Let's talk about EEAT.
Right. For years, Google beat the drum of EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
We all know it.
But the sources show that framework has evolved. It is now NEET, neat.
Neat. Let's break down the new letters.
The addition of transparency and notability to that framework is profound because it directly addresses how a knowledge graph validates an entity.
Let's examine transparency first.
It's the new baseline foundation. In the old days of SEO, you could publish a highly optimized affiliate blog anonymously or under a generic admin tag and still rank if the backlinks were strong.
Right, you could hide.
In the generative era, if you are not radically transparent about exactly who you are, who you serve, and what your specific credentials are, the AI assigns you zero credibility.
Zero.
The machine is essentially running a background check. You must utilize detailed, comprehensive author bios that highlight specific degrees, real-world industry experience, and tangible achievements.
You have to prove you're real.
You need clear About Us pages with physical addresses and corporate structures. The AI must mathematically verify that a real, qualified human entity is responsible for the claims being made.
I look at transparency like applying for a mortgage.
Okay.
You can't just walk into the bank and say, trust me, I'm good for it. You have to show the W-2s, the credit history, the proof of residence.
Exactly.
The AI is doing the exact same forensic audit on your authors. But let's talk about the N notability, because this one feels like it hurts.
Notability is the ultimate multiplier, and you are right, it is a very difficult reality for many practitioners to accept.
Why is this so hard?
Because here is the harsh truth. You can be the smartest, most experienced, most transparent expert in your specific field. But if you are not famous or notable within that industry, you will lose the citation to the person who is.
Wow, even if your content is better.
The knowledge graph does not have intuition. It relies on network consensus. If other trusted high-authority entities in your space are not talking about you, citing you, or interacting with you, The knowledge graph simply does not consider you a notable entity.
So we have a massive problem. How do we force the AI, and specifically the knowledge graph, to recognize our expertise and calculate our notability?
Well, defeat it.
How do we prove we aren't just a shiny website, but an actual industry pillar? Our sources outline a fascinating, highly tactical framework for this called the claim frame proof methodology.
This is huge.
Let's deconstruct this step by step, because I genuinely believe this is the linchpin of modern authority building.
It is a brilliant three-step rhetorical and technical structure designed explicitly for machine verification.
Step 1.
Step 1 is the claim. You make a bold, explicit, unambiguous statement of your expertise directly in the content.
Give me an example.
For example, you do not say, "We help with SEO." You say, "We are the leading technical SEO experts for enterprise e-commerce platforms."
Okay, you plant your flag.
Step 2 is the frame. You immediately contextualize that bold claim within your specific industry or against a specific measurable problem.
So you back it up.
You follow up by stating, "Because we have successfully audited and rebuilt the digital architecture for over 500 Fortune 1000 retail brands."
And then we hit step 3, the proof. And this is the step that is going to cause old school technical SEOs to absolutely lose their minds.
Get ready.
You prove your framed claim by linking OUT to third-party corroboration.
Precisely. You do not just make the claim and move on. You provide the machine with the exact cryptographic breadcrumbs it needs to verify you.
So you link away from your site.
You place an external link to the Forbes PR article written about your agency. You link to the industry award your software won. You link to the Wikipedia page of your founder or to an independent high-authority review aggregator.
You connect the dots for the AI.
You explicitly connect your internal claim to an external validation point within the knowledge graph.
Let me stop you right there, because we really need to address the elephant in the room. Linking out.
I know.
Traditional SEO indoctrinated us with the concept of link juice. We were trained to hoard our page rank like a closed-loop economy.
Like dragons hoarding gold.
Exactly. The prevailing wisdom was that every time you linked to an external website, you were leaking your own hard-earned authority out into the ether. Why, in 2026, are we suddenly deliberately giving away our link juice to other websites?
Because that mentality of hoarding link juice is a relic of an algorithm that only evaluated the search engine leg of the Algorithmic Trinity.
Ah, right.
Yes, in a vacuum, excessive outbound linking might slightly dilute traditional PageRank. But remember, PageRank only serves the retrieval component.
Just one leg.
To satisfy the knowledge graph in the LLM, you must prove your claims are factually corroborated. The algorithmic gain of proving your undeniable, verified expertise to the AI vastly, overwhelmingly outweighs the microscopic loss of traditional link juice.
You are actively feeding the fact checker.
If you provide the proof, the fact checker validates the entity. If the fact checker validates the entity, the LLM cites you in the generative answer.
That is a massive, fundamental mental shift. You are strategically sacrificing a tiny fraction of traditional SEO power to guarantee your spot in the walled garden's final answer.
It is the only viable path to building unshakable authority in a generative environment. You have to conceptualize platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google Gemini as your new autonomous sales force.
Your AI sales team.
Right now, if those models do not know who you are or cannot verify your claims, they are effectively selling for your competition 24 hours a day.
That's a scary thought.
The claim frame proof method is the curriculum you use to educate and train this AI sales force so that they advocate for you.
This is a brilliant framework. It really is. But as we're talking through this, the Forbes mentions, the Wikipedia pages, the industry awards, I can practically hear a massive segment of our audience getting incredibly stressed out.
Small businesses.
Yes. If you are a massive multinational corporation with a 7-figure PR retainer, getting notable and generating third-party proof is just a matter of budget. But what if you are a small business owner? What if you are a local plumbing company, a boutique design agency, or a solo consultant? You don't have a Wikipedia page.
No, you don't.
You cannot outspend the enterprise giants. Are small businesses just locked out of the walled garden entirely?
No, they are not locked out. In fact, if navigated correctly, AI actually levels the playing field in ways traditional SEO never did.
Really? Leveling the playing field?
Traditional search heavily favored the sheer brute force domain rating of massive generalist corporate sites. AI, however, prioritizes the absolute semantic quality, factual accuracy, and hyperrelevance of a niche answer.
So quality beats sheer size.
But to win, Small businesses must abandon the enterprise playbook and adopt a highly specialized strategy we refer to as the upside-down funnel.
I'm looking at this upside-down funnel concept in our notes, and I have to admit it goes against every instinct I have developed as a marketer.
I know it does.
My brain says, cast the widest net possible, build top-of-funnel awareness.
The old way.
If you sell specialized accounting software for restaurants, the old playbook says you should write a massive 5,000-word article on how to manage small business finances, just to get thousands of eyeballs on the page, hoping maybe 1% of them eventually realize they need your software.
Yep.
But our sources are calling that approach a catastrophic mistake. Why is casting a wide net suddenly toxic for a small business?
Because of how the knowledge graph constructs your entity identity.
Okay, explain that.
When a small business targets massive, generic top-of-funnel keywords that are only tangentially related to their core product, they actively confuse the AI about what they actually do.
Oh, wow.
If that highly specialized restaurant accounting software company spends all its resources publishing generic articles about managing small business finances or how to get a business loan,
The AI gets confused.
the AI parses that content and categorizes the entity as a generic financial advice blog, not a B2B SaaS provider for the hospitality industry. You are polluting your own identity with irrelevant semantic signals.
You are literally training the AI to misunderstand you.
Exactly. So small businesses must stop wasting their limited resources on top-of-funnel awareness. You flip the funnel upside down.
Well, where do you start?
You start by fiercely, obsessively optimizing your brand queries, the absolute bottom of the funnel.
Your own name.
When a user explicitly asks an AI, what are the features of your brand software, or is your brand reliable, you must ensure the AI has the perfect, most accurate, structurally flawless answer available. You must control your own narrative first.
Okay, so the brand foundation is locked down. The AI knows exactly who we are and what we sell. Where do we allocate resources next?
Then you move incrementally up the funnel to comparison queries, the middle of the funnel.
Comparisons.
The user knows the problem and is evaluating vendors, your brand versus giant competitor brand. Best whatever service in your specific city.
Right.
You build dedicated content that explicitly, objectively answers these comparative questions, utilizing the strict HTML chunking and the claim frame-proof method we discussed.
You prove why you're better.
You prove why you are the better niche choice. Only after you've completely dominated your brand and comparison queries and established a rock-solid entity identity do you even attempt to write top-of-funnel educational content.
This makes so much intuitive sense. Don't invite thousands of people into your store if the shelves are disorganized and the AI doesn't even know what department you're in.
Perfect analogy.
But as we move into these comparison queries, there is a secret weapon for small businesses in our research that completely blew my mind.
The query phantoms.
It's called the query phantom strategy. Walk us through the mechanics of a query phantom, because this redefines digital PR.
This concept relies on understanding how an autonomous AI agent actually conducts research, which is very different from a human typing a single phrase into Google.
How does it research?
When a user asks an AI assistant a complex comparative question, for example, what is the best CRM for a mid-sized plumbing business? The AI does not just take that single phrase and look for a page with that exact title.
Right.
It acts like a human research assistant. Behind the scenes, in a matter of milliseconds, it fans that single prompt out into dozens of parallel subqueries.
What did those parallel subqueries look like?
The agent will simultaneously search the live web for our plumbing CRM market share, Reddit plumbing CRM complaints, Service Titan versus Housecall Pro pricing tiers, best offline mobile CRM for contractors, and plumbing CRM QuickBooks integrations.
So it's looking everywhere at once.
It executes 15 or 20 distinct searches, reads the top results for all of them, and then synthesizes that massive data set into the final generative response. We call these invisible subqueries query phantoms.
So the AI is instantaneously reading 50 different pages to answer one prompt.
Yes, and here is the profound, game-changing takeaway for a small business. To get cited as the primary recommendation in that final answer, you do not need your own website to rank for best plumbing CRM.
You don't even need to rank for it.
You need your brand entity to be consistently mentioned on the pages that the AI is reading for all those phantom subqueries.
The surrounding ecosystem.
Exactly. You need to be mentioned on the software integration listicles. You need your users advocating for you in the Reddit threads. You need to be an answer on Quora, and you need to be featured in the YouTube comparison videos.
If I'm a small business, I don't need to outspend the monolithic giants on a global ad campaign or try to outrank Salesforce on a primary keyword.
It's a waste of money.
I just need to make sure that when the AI calls my industry's references, my name is on every single resume it looks at.
Yes.
If the AI sees my boutique CRM mentioned favorably in a Reddit thread about mobile apps and in a blog post about QuickBooks integrations, the knowledge graph strengthens my entity relevance for plumbing CRMs, even if my own domain rating is tiny.
That is the absolute essence of digital PR in the generative AI era. It is no longer about acquiring a sterile backlink to pass PageRank.
Right.
It is about strategic brand placement on the specific phantom queries the AI relies on for context. You are surrounding the AI with your brand presence.
This is incredibly empowering for small businesses. But we also have to talk about local businesses, the brick and mortar shops, the roofers, the lawyers, because local SEO is their absolute lifeblood.
Local is a whole different game now.
And our sources highlighted a massive shift here. In March 2026, Google rolled out a devastating spam update that specifically targeted old-school local SEO tactics. Let's talk about what died and what local businesses need to do now.
The primary casualty of that update was the eradication of doorway page abuse.
Oh, I used to see this everywhere, and it drove me crazy as a consumer. A local roofing company based in Chicago would create 50 identical web pages on their site.
Yeah.
The copy was exactly the same, the images were the same, but they just used a script to swap out the name of the suburb in the H1 tag. So you had roofing in Naperville, roofing in Evanston, roofing in Oak Park.
Just spamming the map.
It was a terrible, spammy user experience, but for years, it successfully tricked the search engine into ranking them locally.
And in 2026, deploying that tactic is a fast track to having your entire domain penalized or completely de-indexed.
De-indexed, wow.
Generative AI models are incredibly sophisticated at natural language understanding. They can instantly calculate the semantic similarity between those 50 pages, recognize them as identical low-value spam, and filter them out of the walled garden entirely.
They see right through it.
The machine understands you are trying to manipulate it.
So if a small business actually does serve 50 different suburbs, and they want to expand their visibility locally without triggering a spam penalty, how do they play the AI's game?
They need to align with the AI's desire to synthesize comparisons. Instead of duplicating a low-value service page, the business should author a high-quality, deeply researched listicle on their blog.
Listicle.
For example, publish an article titled, "The Top 10 Plumbers in Whatever Adjacent City."
Wait, let me stop you. You want a local business owner to spend time writing an article that explicitly names and links to their direct local competitors.
I know.
Most business owners I know would absolutely hate that idea. They'd think it's corporate suicide.
It feels counterintuitive, but strategically, it is brilliant. You read a genuinely helpful, objective list of local providers, highlighting their specialties.
And then?
And naturally, you include your own business as one of the top options, clearly stating your unique value proposition using the claim frame proof method.
Ah, so you put yourself on the list.
Generative AI absolutely loves this format because it perfectly answers the user's implicit intent to compare options. It proves to the knowledge graph that you are a highly authoritative, connected entity within that specific local market.
Right.
And most importantly, it completely avoids the doorway page spam penalty while still getting your brand associated with the adjacent city's keywords.
What if they don't want to post it on their own site?
Alternatively, if hosting it on your own site is a bridge too far, you use outreach to get that exact listicle published on a local community blog or news site.
That makes sense. Market. And speaking of the local market, there's another piece to building local trust that ties back to the knowledge graph, which is the concept of localized relevance.
This is a great example.
Our sources gave a really illuminating example. Let's say you are a personal injury lawyer in a mid-sized city. You sponsor the local Little League softball team, and they put a link to your law firm on their deeply outdated, incredibly basic team website.
Built in 1999.
Exactly. To a traditional SEO software tool, that backlink looks completely worthless because the softball site has a domain rating of essentially 0. But to the AI, that link is gold. Why?
Because it provides cryptographic proof of geographic reality.
Geographic reality.
Generative models struggle with verifying physical existence. A spammer in another country can easily spin up a fake law firm website and buy backlinks from high-DR international blogs.
Happens all the time.
But it is incredibly difficult to fake a hyperlocal relationship with a community softball league. That backlink tells the AI's knowledge graph, this law firm entity physically exists in this specific geographic community and actively interacts with other verified local entities.
It grounds them in the real world.
That localized relevance is a massive, irreplaceable trust signal that prevents the AI from hallucinating a fake local business. It proves you are real.
Okay, I have one more specific hack for the small business playbook, and it involves social media.
This is a painful one for a lot of people.
A lot of small businesses spend hours every single day grinding out posts on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, hoping that all those likes and comments will somehow boost their SEO and make the AI trust them more.
Yeah.
But our research reveals a brutal technical reality. AI bots only crawl about 5% of social media platforms. The platforms actively block the crawlers to protect their own data.
So all that engagement, all that hard work,
It is completely invisible to the AI. It's happening in a vacuum.
it is a massive point of failure for small business marketing. You are generating powerful notability signals, but the fact checker isn't allowed to see them.
But there's a workaround.
The workaround is exceptionally elegant and requires very few resources. You create a single dedicated page on your own website, perhaps titled Community Engagement or Recent Insights.
Okay.
You manually embed or link to your most important, highly engaged social media posts on that page. Every week, you update that page with your latest hits.
And then what?
And then you go into Google Search Console and manually force the crawler to fetch and index that specific URL.
I love this. It is like building a custom private bridge right over the walled garden.
That's exactly what it is.
You are taking the engagement data that the AI is blocked from seeing, bringing it onto your own fully owned turf, and hand-delivering it directly to the crawler.
Here you go, AI.
It proves to the search engine that real humans are actively interacting with your brand, which directly feeds that all-important notability score in the Neat framework.
Precisely. It is a brilliant, low-resource tactical maneuver for a small business to feed the algorithmic trinity without needing a massive enterprise budget.
All right, we have spent the last 45 minutes talking about how traditional organic traffic is dying, how the walled garden is taking over, and how we have to meticulously optimize every chunk of text for AI answers.
That's a lot.
But I want to pivot entirely because our sources highlight an incredible action-driven loophole. It turns out the rumors of traditional SEO's complete death have been slightly exaggerated.
Just slightly.
There is a massive, highly lucrative segment of the internet where traditional methods still win every single time.
This is a crucial strategic distinction, and it comes down to understanding user intent. We have to separate informational intent from transactional intent.
Okay, break that down.
Generative AI, by its very nature, is phenomenal at synthesizing information. If a user asks, what is the formula for compound interest? The AI will generate a perfect, frictionless summary.
Right.
But generative AI cannot currently perform meaningful, complex actions on your behalf.
Right. If I search for a mortgage calculator, I don't want a 500-word paragraph explaining the history of calculators or how amortization works.
No, you need to do math.
I need the interactive, functional tool. If I'm standing in my driveway, buried in 2 feet of snow, and I search for snow removal service near me, I am not looking for a summary of snow shoveling techniques.
You need a plow.
I have an immediate physical problem, and I need to click a button to hire a human being.
Those are strictly action-oriented transactional queries. And if you analyze the search engine result pages today, in 2026, you will see that AI overviews rarely, if ever, trigger for these types of searches.
Google knows better.
The algorithm recognizes that the user does not want synthesis. The user requires an interface to complete a task. Google knows the user must click through to a destination website to achieve their goal.
So after everything we've discussed about traffic vanishing into the walled garden, here is the ultimate loophole.
The loophole?
If you want to drive real, traditional human traffic to your domain, you need to build digital tools, calculators, templates, interactive assessments, or aggressively target those immediate transactional moments.
It demands a bifurcated, holistic strategy from marketing teams. You must consciously split your attention.
So you run 2 playbooks.
You apply Generative Engine Optimization, the strict HTML chunking, the claim frame proof methodology, the entity building to your informational queries.
That's playbook 1.
This builds your overarching brand authority and ensures you are cited when users are in the research phase. However, you continue to apply aggressive, traditional SEO-targeted landing pages, high-velocity backlinks, and conversion rate optimization to your transactional queries and tools.
To capture the immediate action and drive direct revenue.
Exactly.
You capture their mind with GEO and you capture their wallet with traditional SEO. It's a beautifully balanced approach. But here is the harsh reality.
There's always a catch.
Even if a listener understands everything we've talked about today, they understand the Trinity, they deploy the phantom queries, they exploit the loopholes, there is still a massive roadblock that prevents most companies from actually surviving this transition.
The biggest threat of all.
And this brings us to the final major insight from our research, the internal threat. The sources make a highly provocative claim. They state that the biggest threat to your SEO visibility in 2026 is not a Google Core update. It is not ChatGPT releasing a new model.
No.
The biggest threat is the structure of your own organization.
The internal gridlock happening inside marketing departments right now is paralyzing. And ironically, it begins with the very technology we are attempting to optimize for.
How so?
There is a rampant, almost pathological over-reliance on AI tools within content teams, because an LLM can generate a content brief, draft an outline, and write 2,000 words of copy in 15 seconds.
People get lazy.
Teams are using it to pump out massive volumes of generic articles to hit arbitrary publishing quotas. But they are missing the fatal mathematical flaw in this approach.
Which is?
If you asked an AI tool to write an article about industry trends, and your competitor asks the same tool the exact same question, you both receive the exact same bland, statistically average answer.
It's the grand paradox of AI. It radically lowers the barrier to entry so that literally anyone can write a coherent article, but in doing so, it completely strips away the unique point of view.
Yes.
And if you go back to the Nate 8 framework without a unique perspective, without original data, you have zero notability. You are not an expert. You are just adding synthetic noise to an already deafening echo chamber.
AI models do not replace human expertise. They merely format it. If you want to survive the invisible decision layer, you still absolutely require human subject matter experts to inject original research, proprietary data insights, and strong contrarian opinions into the content.
The AI can't invent a contrarian opinion.
If your organization's strategy relies entirely on an LLM to do the actual thinking, your content will fail the walled garden's quality evaluation every single time.
And then beyond the writing itself, there is a massive structural nightmare regarding how teams are organized. Cross-team silos.
Oh, the silos.
Let's walk through a real-world scenario. Imagine you are the director of SEO at a mid-sized tech company. You've listened to this deep dive. You understand that to win the walled garden citation, you need your brand mentioned in YouTube comparison videos, you need positive PR mentions in Forbes, and you need authentic engagement on Reddit.
You know exactly what the machine wants.
But here is where the organizational structure fails. The SEO director doesn't own the YouTube channel. The video team does.
Right.
They don't run the PR department. Corporate communications does. They don't manage the Reddit community. Social media does.
It's all broken up.
Generative AI visibility fundamentally requires a highly coordinated, synchronized effort across all of these distinct channels to build a cohesive entity identity.
But they don't talk to each other.
If the SEO team is held solely responsible for AI rankings, but they lack the executive authority to mandate collaboration with video and PR, the entire strategy collapses before a single piece of content is published.
It's like asking a conductor to lead a complex symphony, but they aren't allowed to talk to the string section and they can't even look at the brass section.
They just have to stand on the podium, waving their baton, while every department plays a completely different song. It guarantees failure.
It highlights a severe maturity problem within modern corporations. The discipline of SEO has evolved dramatically. It is no longer a hyper-technical webmaster role confined to fixing broken links, optimizing meta tags, and adjusting crawl budgets in a dark room.
Not anymore.
In 2026, GEO is a cross-functional, company-wide business capability. But many executive leadership teams still view it through a 2015 lens. They treat the strategy as a mere execution task for a siloed team.
We see the fallout of this disconnect all the time. An SEO team will spend 3 months in isolation building a massive 50-page theoretical framework on how to capture AI search.
Oh, I've seen those docs.
It is a beautiful document. It has charts, graphs, and projections, and then it sits in a shared Google Drive folder and gathers dust because nobody in the actual execution teams, the writers, the videographers, the social managers, knows what to practically do with it.
Too much strategy, not enough doing.
Our sources are begging marketing leaders to change their behavior.
The technological environment is shifting far too rapidly for slow, monolithic theoretical planning cycles. The walled gardens update their weights constantly.
So what's the alternative?
The organizations that are winning in 2026 are the ones that embrace an agile methodology. They implement small, atomic changes, carefully observe how the AI agent responds to those changes, and iterate rapidly.
Moving fast.
Do not spend a month planning a schema overhaul. Add the FAQ schema to your top 3 pages today. Update your offer bios with verifiable credentials tomorrow. Rewrite your top 5 highest traffic articles to utilize the inverted pyramid of GEO by Friday.
Just do it.
Execute the tactics, test the AI sentiment, and see what actually moves the needle in the real world.
So if we follow this to its logical conclusion, what does this mean for the future of the SEO professional? There is a brilliant, almost philosophical quote hidden in the research material. When SEO succeeds, SEO disappears.
It is a profound observation. True success in the generative era means that optimization has become fully integrated into the subconscious DNA of the entire company.
Just how you do business.
The PR team naturally builds claim frame-proof links when they pick stories. The content team naturally structures their HTML5 into digestible chunks without being told. The executive leadership aligns KPIs across all departments to feed the knowledge graph.
Everyone is pulling in the same direction.
When an organization achieves that level of maturity, the standalone SEO team effectively disappears. They transition into a high-level internal consulting function, guiding the overarching business narrative rather than executing tactical fixes in an isolated silo.
But achieving that requires massive top-down leadership alignment in education.
It does.
Okay, we have covered a truly staggering amount of ground today. For everyone listening, let's do a rapid synthesis of the survival guide.
Let's recap.
The era of optimizing for 10 blue links is over. We are now optimizing for walled gardens, where the platform's goal is to prevent the user from visiting your website.
Right.
To win the citation and capture that incredibly valuable 14.2% conversion rate, you must simultaneously satisfy the algorithmic trinity, the LLM, the search engine, and the knowledge graph.
You achieve that alignment through the GEO blueprint. You implement strict HTML chunking to isolate your answers. You deploy comprehensive schema markup to categorize your entities. And you maintain a ruthless freshness protocol to prevent AI hallucination.
What about authority?
You build unshakable, verified authority by upgrading your standards to any EAT, specifically adding transparency and notability. And you explicitly prove that authority to the machine using the claim frame-proof methodology, sacrificing traditional link juice to feed the fact-checker.
If you are a small business, you do not try to outspend the giants. You flip the funnel upside down. Own your brand queries, dominate your comparisons, and hunt down those query phantoms. Get your brand cited on the Reddit threads and listicles that the AI is actually reading.
Avoid the doorway page spam.
Avoid local doorway page spam by acting as a local curator. And finally, remember the action-driven loophole. Keep deploying aggressive traditional SEO for transactional tools and queries.
And break down those internal silos.
Yes, break down the internal silos in your company so you can actually execute this across every department.
It is a profound structural shift in how we communicate with technology, but it is a manageable one if you fundamentally change your objective. Stop chasing hollow top-of-funnel traffic metrics and focus entirely on being the definitive, factual, verified answer for your specific niche.
It is a whole new world out there. But before we let you go, we want to leave you with one final, highly provocative thought that builds on everything we've meticulously broken down today.
This is a wild detail.
We found a fascinating nugget buried deep in the source material about where the economics of this AI ecosystem are inevitably heading. Right now, as we speak, OpenAI is beta testing a new monetization model.
The very expensive one.
They are reportedly charging massive enterprise brands a $200,000 upfront fee for guaranteed ad placements directly inside ChatGPT's generative answers.
It is the ultimate pay-to-play model for the perfect answer. There are no performance guarantees, no cost-per-click metrics. It is simply a massive upfront check to force your brand's entity directly into the walled garden's most valuable real estate.
So here is the philosophical and strategic question we want you to mull over as you audit your brand's AI presence this week.
Think about this.
If these massive AI platforms successfully monetize their perfect answers, allowing giant corporations with bottomless budgets to simply buy their way into the walled garden, How will that fundamentally change user trust?
Right.
When consumers inevitably realize that the omniscient AI is actually just serving them the highest bidder, will they abandon the platform and look for a new, unbiased engine?
And perhaps more importantly for you, the listener, navigating this transition today.
Yeah.
If the big brands can simply bypass the algorithmic trinity and buy their way into the response, aren't the organic authority-building GEO strategies we discussed today going to become the only lifeline you have left?
Wow.
The only conceivable way to remain visible in these engines without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars is to be so undeniably factual, so perfectly structured, and so deeply embedded in the knowledge graph that the AI has absolutely no choice but to cite you organically alongside the paid ads to maintain its own illusion of credibility.
The era of the walled garden is officially here, and the toll to get inside those gates is getting exponentially more expensive every single day.
Better start building.
Build your unshakable authority now before you get locked out completely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.